Well, it's a very good afternoon, or it's a good morning, or it's a good evening, wherever you are dialing and listening to our Coaching Cafe today, either live or on your favorite streaming service. Welcome back. My name is Natalie Ashdown from the Open Door Coaching Group, and you can hear the excitement in my voice because this week we are celebrating International Coaching Week. And I have a very special guest on the line who we're going to be talking with today, and that is Hayley Goldsmith. Welcome, Hayley.
Hi, Nat. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you, Hayley, and I'm going to quickly do our introduction so that we can get right into our conversation. And so before I begin, let me acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians on the lands on which we're all meeting today and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and communities of Australia and the lands from all around the world, wherever you might be joining us. We've got the US represented, India represented, Japan. We've really spread out around the world today. And we pay their respects to them, to elders past, present, and emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. Well, as I mentioned, a very quick summary today and introduction, and then straight into our conversation. So we are celebrating International Coaching Week. It's the 30th year of the International Coach Federation. Celebrations this week, and I was reflecting actually Open Door has actually been part of that community and part of the international coaching community for 22 years now, so nearly over two-thirds of the time, and it's really exciting, and you're all part of the alumni and you're all part of the coaching community, so it's great to have everyone come on the line and to celebrate who we are as coaches and what coaching's all about. Today, we're going to be learning from an inspirational leader. I have got lots of questions lined up, and you are more than welcome to ask your questions of Hayley as well. And to do that, you can enter your messages into the chat box and we can pick them up there. We are all about having a shared learning experience. So if you are new to the Coaching Cafe, welcome. We are about creating shared learning experiences, having thought-provoking conversations together, learning new tools, skills, and experiences together. And of course, if you're picking up your ICF CCEs, they will be available for you at the end of the session as well. So today we've actually set aside about 45 minutes. The Coaching Cafe normally goes for 30 minutes, but we've set aside some more time today to talk to Hayley, to learn from her experience, and also then to ask any questions that you might have. So you can sit back and enjoy the presentation, which will be a little bit longer today. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and then we can just focus together. And so it's my pleasure, everyone, to introduce you to a lady that I have known for a long time now. Hayley brings over 22 years of professional experience, a decade in specialising in leadership coaching, and she's passionate about empowering individuals and teams to reach their full potential, like all of us. I think the main thing I'd like to see here is I've actually seen it in practice so many times. Hayley is currently serving as the clinical team leader at Victoria Police, and she brings a unique blend of leadership, coaching, and clinical expertise to the work. And when I was thinking about who I'd like to interview for International Coach Week, Hayley, we had just been having a conversation. I thought, oh, it would be so wonderful to talk to you. And one of the reasons is because of your very varied career. Hayley's passionate about coaching, mental health support, and initiatives, and the well-being of others. And as I said, I've seen that in practice for so many years. So welcome, Hayley. Thank you very much for your time today.
Hi, Nat. Thank you. Yes, it has been. It's been a long time. And yeah, I think we first met when I was ANZ's coaching manager, which was just over 10 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. So it was. I was thinking back, how long ago was it? And I think it was over 10 years. And maybe I could, kick that off actually,
Yeah.
because that's where I first met you at ANZ. And now you're in a clinical space at Victoria Police. So it's really interesting, that career transition that you've had over those 10 years. So I know that you've always been an advocate for coaching in the workplace. So perhaps we could kick off there and you could take us back to the beginning. And perhaps give us an overview of your career as it relates to coaching, from ANZ through to Vic Police.
Yeah, of course. So I first started. I first started out working for ANZ in, I think it was around 2002 as well, and worked in various positions, and finished my career in banking as ANZ's coaching manager. Then, after a stint in public health, I transitioned over to work for Victoria Police, and I'm now one of the clinical team leaders of a very important team called the Specialist Investigator Support Unit. We love an acronym, so we're called SISU, where I work with an incredible team of psychologists and social workers who provide support and leadership coaching to members working across specialised units within Victoria Police.
It's such a big difference, ANZ and the work we were doing at ANZ,
Yeah.
through to the work that you were doing now. Perhaps you could share with us what led you into the work, from a purely corporate coaching space into your work with Victoria Police.
Yeah, so I was first inspired to champion coaching when I worked at ANZ. So I was always very curious about people and human behavior. So coaching was a very natural progression for me. I always found myself gravitating towards having conversations with people and about their work goals. And it was at a time when we were embarking on a culture change across the organization, and we were investing heavily in coaching and leadership. I did have a few inspirational managers who believed in coaching and believed that it was the right direction for the organization. And these managers coached me along the way. I also met you, Nat, who inspired me to expand further on my coaching career and was able to provide me with the necessary training and coaching skills to use um, coaching effectively in the workplace. So it has been quite varied.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you decided to go to pursue the clinical approach, and you have studied beyond coaching, haven't you?
Have, yes. So I have studied, I've got my Bachelor of Social Work and
Mm.
my Cert 4 in Business and Workplace Coaching, and I also hold qualifications in counselling. So it is varied, but they all do complement each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do, as I said, remember those early times of, at ANZ and what we were trying to inspire then. And it sounds like you're doing a similar. We have worked at Victoria Police together as well, and it's quite
Yes.
inspiring the work you're doing. I suppose
Yeah.
what strikes me about what you've shared, Hayley, is how you've applied coaching, not only in the different roles you've had, but in very different organisations. So I was wondering, what do you see as a difference in terms of how you've applied coaching in those different organisations, if there's any difference?
Yeah, well, good question. I think both policing and banking offer often face rapidly changing environments, whether if it's due to new regulations, law reform, or changes to policy and process. I think fundamentally, though, coaching is coaching, and it's about people and bringing out their best, regardless of the organization they work in. And leadership coaching helps leaders articulate and align their personal values with the organization's vision and values. And I think when leaders embody these values, they set a tone that influences the entire organization. And coaches often focus on developing emotional intelligence, which is essential for leaders managing diverse teams. And I think that higher emotional intelligence helps leaders to connect with their staff, understand stakeholder needs. I think coaching also encourages reflective thinking and critical analysis, which can help improve decision making processes. And I think in high stakes environments like policing and banking, sound decision making and having emotional intelligence are both really important skills for being a good leader.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We were talking about, I was part of Air Force's International Coaching Week
Yes.
presentation on Tuesday, and
Yeah.
I was thrown a similar question, what's the
Yeah.
difference? Because as you say, you've got a high paced in police,
Mm.
that traditional command and control as well, versus quite different from corporate. And I was thrown a
Yes.
similar question, and my answer was quite similar, actually.
Yeah.
Coaching goes across hierarchies, it goes across countries, as we're experiencing even today on the line with everyone dialing in. And also, to me, it goes across generations as well. So, um, the conversation we were having is, what about the younger generations? And I said, well, everyone can benefit from coaching, and you can coach me and I can coach you. Everyone, who's open and willing can benefit from coaching. So I really resonate with what you're saying there in terms of, anywhere where there's decision making needed, emotional intelligence needed in our leaders, anywhere where there's a fast-paced environment, that's always a great opportunity for coaching as well. So, yeah. So I was thinking also about, I've been quite inspired to follow your career and be a part of it too. And I was wondering, what's been the most inspiring thing about the coaching that you've done or that you've had the opportunity to be a part of?
So I would say one of the most inspiring aspects of leadership coaching, and I'll talk about my time at Victoria Police, is witnessing the transformative journey of individuals or police members who genuinely seek to grow and improve. So I think many leaders in policing face immense pressure and challenges, and seeing them develop their skills in communication, empathy, and decision making can lead to significant positive changes with their crews or with the teams that they manage, and within the communities that they are a part of. For instance, coaching can help leaders shift from, and you spoke about that before, Nat, a command and control style to one that emphasizes collaboration and trust. And this change not only enhances the morale of the crews, but it also fosters better relationships between the police and the communities they serve. So it's inspiring to see how coaching encourages leaders to embrace vulnerability and be really authentic, allowing them to connect with their teams on a deeper level. And when they model these behaviors, it creates a culture of openness, being inclusive, which ultimately leads to more effective policing and team engagement.
Yeah, and I think what really resonates with me is that in policing, you're coaching leaders. They have teams that they're working with. So, and the same as with Air Force as well. We're coaching very senior people who have teams they're working with. The context is the challenge, or the context is how they're applying the coaching as well. But fundamentally, we're coaching leaders to be better leaders, from what I'm hearing.
Yes, correct. And that's, I guess that's been my niche is leadership coaching. So whether if it's been coaching leaders at ANZ or coaching at Victoria Police, I think fundamentally it is it is the same. It's all just working with people.
Yeah, and I wonder, Hayley, this is a bit of a question without notice, but we see a question there in the chat about common coaching topics. So is there anything you could share with us, from a general point of view, remembering the sensitivity and the confidentiality, of course,
Sure.
but are there common coaching topics from a leadership point of view that come up in a police context?
Yeah, so in a police context, it would be some of the goals that that have been set have been around. It might be around, how do I connect in with my team or my crew? How do how does the coachee set goals that are going to be beneficial for? It might be an investigation that they're running, or it might be around the softer skills. So how do I connect in better with my teams? So, but like all coaching, it's really up to the person to come up with the goal and what's going to benefit them. And then we really work within our frameworks and with our coaching tools to set aside space for the coachee to come up with their mission or their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've created a specialized coaching bank as well, which again is taking the broad skills we have and then applying that to the actual context and making it context specific. So, that's quite. So I suppose what I'm trying to emphasize is perhaps what you were doing back at ANZ is quite similar to what you were doing here at Victoria Police. It's just the difference in the context. You're working with leaders with leadership issues, just as we all would have, but the context is different.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think particularly, whether if you're coaching leaders or if you're coaching somebody who might be an inspiring leader or somebody who wants to improve their performance, fundamental, I think the questions are the questions. So
Mm,
it's about how do you use those questions to bring out the best in people, which is
yeah.
what coaching is all about.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I was respecting also, as I said, on the Air Force conversation where they were talking
Mm,
about the fast-paced environment and the rapid
mm,
environments and the need for rapid deployment. That coaching might not be appropriate in every situation in every environment. However, they're using coaching within Air Force, within Victoria Police, in so many different areas around high performance. So um, as I go, I've just emphasised again, the context is extremely different,
yeah,
but the application of the skills are really powerful.
absolutely. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
So I'm wondering also, Hayley, would you mind sharing what's been some of the biggest challenges you've faced in implementing coaching within the organisations that you've worked with?
Oh, the biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge I've faced is changing people's mindsets.
I think we might have just lost sound there, so it won't be a moment while we try to fix that.
So I was back in the early having coaches transition from coaching consultants to coaching management and leaders across the organisation, and that was a mission because it meant that I had a team of coaches who needed to be trained and upskilled in different coaching models and frameworks. Um, so they were successfully enrolled in Cert 4 in business and workplace coaching at Open Coaching Door, and graduation day for my team when they all received their coaching qualifications and our coaching team then expanded is certainly one of the highlights of my coaching career that came from the biggest challenge.
Yes, and I think I just dropped out. I think my sound might have dropped out, or maybe it was yours,
Yeah.
Hayley. But you did say that the biggest challenge was changing people's mindsets about coaching in those early days of ANZ.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, definitely changing people's mindsets and looking at how do we, how do we really um, talk about what the benefits of coaching are, particularly to
Yeah.
the senior leaders, and why coaching is important and the organisational benefits it does bring to the workplace.
So my understanding of the mindset back then, it was about uh, trying to bring those benefits, and it was also about realizing the organizational benefits. But was the mindset back then more task driven, numbers driven? We tell people what to do. We try to incentivize them around the numbers and the figures and the output. And we wanted to really change. I remember some of the people we worked back with
Mm.
then. It was about changing that mindset from that traditional task-driven approach to more of a coaching approach where we're trying to bring out the best in the individuals. Was that the mindset shift that you saw?
Yeah, it was the mindset shift that we saw, and
Mm,
it was transitioning. It was embarking on a culture change. So looking at how do we, how do we have these coaching conversations? And one thing that I always remember that you taught throughout your training that was on the spot coaching. So coaching can
mm.
be done anywhere. So how are we, how do we turn the organization, or how do we turn the culture into one where we ask questions, we're curious, and we coach each other through situations.
Yeah, I remember them coming back between, say, day one and day two or
Yeah.
day three, and the people had actually gone out and tried the coaching skills, and it was a
Yeah.
real, you get those real aha moments because they've never really done this before. But then, as you say, we need to
That's right.
capture those organizational benefits as well, because back then,
Mm,
for those of you that are on the line, if we're talking 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the work
mm,
you did at ANZ was quite pioneering back then. Organizations had already introduced coaching, so it wasn't it's not like you were the first one to do it, but in your area at ANZ, it was definitely pioneering.
it was pioneering, and we were quite it was quite transformative. So we were
Yeah.
definitely, I think that's probably the right way of putting it. We were pioneers.
Mm, absolutely. Well, you had to convince senior leaders. Not only, you've had to do that
Mm.
throughout your whole career. You've had to convince senior leaders to invest in coaching. Particularly if they've got a different view of what coaching is. So I'm wondering, Hayley, what advice do you have for others that might be in a similar situation? We've got a huge alumni on the line listening. What advice might you have for people who are trying to convince senior leaders to invest in coaching?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think to know what the benefits of coaching are and how these benefits might apply to your organization. Also, take the time to listen to why someone might be objecting or having reservations about coaching. I would say to also be clear on how coaching reinforces accountability around goal setting. And these goals might be interpersonal goals or relate directly to how they're leading the team or working to a timeline on a project that needs to be delivered on by a certain time.
Mm.
Uh, I also love to use stats when advocating for the benefits of coaching. So, some fun facts are that 80% of people who receive coaching reported increased self confidence, and over 70% benefit from improved working performance, relationships, and more effective communication skills. And 86% of companies report that they recouped their investment in coaching. And so that's from the ICF. So there really are some benefits to coaching, and I'd need more time to properly advocate for all the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen just with the Gallup reports that have come out over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about the new state of the workforce reports from Gallup and the benefits and the uplift in performance, 20% to 28% when managers are receiving coaching. The other really interesting statistic for me was that when
Mm.
managers combine developing their people, so I focus on developing their people with the coaching approach, they're talking about like 50% uplift in performance, decreases in absenteeism. So I love that you love the statistics, Hayley. I do as well. But I suppose the main message coming out is that we need to use that information and that data actually to build that business case
Yes.
for coaching as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I do find particularly senior managers do like to see what's the benefits. And so
Mm.
if you can go in really strongly with some stats, then it helps to shape those and form those conversations around why coaching is important.
Yeah, and you talked about a lot of those benefits that you've seen throughout your career as well.
Mm.
I noticed that as we talked about, you've expanded your skills to be trained in social work. So I suppose it's a good opportunity to say thank you for your service because of the role that you do and the way that you serve our community as well. I'm wondering, how do you see your coaching skills, the training you did there, sitting alongside your clinical role?
Yeah, so I think my social work qualification complements my coaching skills because each skill draws on using a strengths-based approach. And
Mm, mm,
coaching sits alongside my clinical role by encouraging people to engage proactively with their own mental health and wellness. And I think both coaching and social work focuses on empowering individuals to make their own decisions and to come up with solutions that are right for them. And also, both approaches work very well within large systems, and ultimately, people and their decision making make the systems. So, by
mm.
focusing on enhancing the human elements and addressing those any biases that people might have can lead to changes in culture. And I think my background in social work allows me to take a broader view of the person in front of me and their systems and context. I think
Mm.
holistically, while my clinical skills allow me to address any psychological or emotional needs, coaching can also identify things like early signs of burnout and areas for improvement. And I think my coaching skills do complement my clinical role from that aspect, and they work, I guess, hand in glove together.
Yeah, I can. I'm fascinated by what you say there around, seeing more of the whole of the person, because you have those that other strong skill set as well, not just your coaching skill set, and how they work in a really complementary way, particularly around systems and context. I'm wondering, do you actually have that feeling, Hayley, of taking off your coaching hat and putting on your clinical hat, or is it just how you're showing up? So you'll show up to the conversation, and whatever they need. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's because of the environment that we work in. So I work in an environment where I guess clinically we would use a brief crisis intervention framework or
Mm,
model to work with people who might be experiencing crisis in the moment. But
mm,
also that's just one aspect of the work and of the role. It also might be that we're working with someone who might just need to have a conversation around something that is that's blocking them in their life from moving forward, for doing something. So then I would draw on my coaching skills and my coaching experience to be able to weave that into the conversation. So it is like having a tool belt,
yeah.
or having you've got all of these skills, and then you sort of pull out what you need at the right time. And sometimes things can be blended, and sometimes you might stick purely to coaching. It just really depends on the person or the context.
Yeah, I had that analogy coming up in my head around the tool belt, and
Yeah,
the amount of flexibility that you have.
yeah, yeah.
From my perspective, I would be making referrals, but you've got that entire set of flexibility that you can bring to the
Mm.
service of the people you're working with. Yeah, it's wonderful. So I'm wondering, also, given your over 10 years in coaching, um, do you have any advice or key learnings that you might have for people listening, not only online, but our alumni who listen on the podcast? Are there any kind of advice or key learnings that you would like them to take away?
Yes, keep being curious about coaching
Yeah.
and learning different models that are out there and how they might apply to your coaching sessions. Also, to experiment with your coaching and to trust your instincts that you will ask the right questions at the right time. Also, not to give up on the person who might be initially resistant to coaching. I think the impact of coaching contributes to things like we discussed before, systemic change within the organization you might be working in. It also helps people engage with new perspectives while having a ripple effect of the benefits throughout the organization you are working in. So don't give up.
Yeah, I really like that.
Not
I
chipping
think
away.
because, yeah, and I think what I love about what you shared is you've actually implemented coaching in challenging environments where it would be easy to go, oh, that's a command and control environment. They're not going to be interested in coaching. But as we know, not only are they interested in coaching, it's just such a great opportunity to bring your toolkit. So I love what you say there about curiosity, not
Yeah.
giving up, focusing on the whole of the person, which is a really advanced approach to coaching as well. And Nicole has also asked, do you have any favorite models? So what are your go-to models, do you think, or your favorite
Ooh,
models?
my favorite models. Good question. Good question. I do have a few favorite models that I might go to, particularly in leadership coaching. So there's the GROW model. I think everybody will be or should be hopefully is familiar with the GROW model. There's also the clear model and the fuel model, which are also popular coaching models within the leadership context. And I particularly like the clear model because it emphasizes on building trust and understanding through contracting. You also explore action and review using that model.
Yeah.
And the fuel model focuses on framing the situation, and it is really good for understanding your client's perspective and exploring options, and then laying out a plan, particularly if you're working with somebody who might be not only managing a team, but they need to also deliver on a project as well. So it just helps to redefine and refine what the goals are.
Yeah, and absolutely in line with the, the ICF core competencies around establishing the agreement and as you say, the contracting part of it. I think also, given the spaces you've worked in, that contracting with, there's a range of stakeholders involved in the coaching process, so extremely important. Well, Hayley, I would just like to say thank you so much. We've learned so much from you in terms of the different approaches to coaching that you're taking, the different environments and contexts. We've got a couple of last questions coming in, if you don't mind.
Sure. Absolutely.
So Julie's asked, is there any intricacies that need to be considered to call a leader or someone a coach? Do they have to be certified, have a qualification to be considered a coach? Now, I know you've got some strong opinions on that. Obviously, I do, but I'd be keen to hear your opinion as well.
Yeah, so I think anyone can ask. With the right training, anybody can ask coaching questions, as long as you know the frameworks, and I think from an ethical point of view, you would be wanting to know what you're doing before you're working with another human. So whether if that is you've been trained in a workshop, or you decide to go down the more formal path of Cert 4 in business of coaching, or other formal qualifications. But I think I do think either really great training or qualifications are definitely needed.
Yeah, I think also, just from the research that I've done, coaching particularly managers as coaches. So we can all be great leaders, we can all be great managers, but the great managers who are coach have what you talked about, that coaching mindset. So they are bringing those coaching principles, they're bringing the coaching mindset, the beliefs about people. You talked about bringing out the best in people and thinking about the whole of the person, not giving up on the person. So I think unless you have that mindset around developing people, and you're demonstrating those behaviours, the research would say, but also in practice, you can't call yourself a coach. You could call yourself a great leader, but we're really looking at bringing those coaching skills and the coaching mindset to the forefront, and that's where the research says that managers need to be trained in those skills. They're not necessarily natural at doing that, so they need to be trained in those skills. And interesting, the recent research I read said that managers want more training in those skills. And I mean, that's easy for us to say at Open Door Coaching, but there's a lot of research to say that managers haven't been adequately trained in those skills. And that's where all the qualifications, etc., come into it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And of course, as you mentioned, Hayley, it is about having conversations. So we can have coaching-like conversations by listening, asking great questions, as Julie's pointed out as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I really want to thank you for your time. There's, as I said, so much that you've actually shared with us. It's been wonderful to work with you over all of these years, but also, to find inspiration from the work that you do, and the way that you're serving our community today as well. So on behalf of the alumni, I want to thank you very much, Hayley, for your time, and wish you and everyone a very happy International Coaching Week.
Thanks, Nat. Happy International Coaching Week to you and everyone online. And thanks for having me as a guest, and for letting me be a part of this really important conversation.
Thank you. And as I said, we've all learned from your wealth of knowledge and experience. So we're very grateful for that as well.